All right, Jordan, it's great to have you here with us today on Mine Stock Talk. And I guess we'll just kick it off with a brief introduction of Skyharbour Resources, because you got a lot of things going on with your 36 projects. So I'm very curious to see what the deal is there. And also just maybe an overview of what the priorities are, the focus is on uranium exploration in the Athabasca region.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to connect and to present Skyharbour Resources to your audience. A lot of interest right now in the sector, and we've, as a company, as a uranium-focused company, been around now for just over a decade. We saw an opportunity back in 2014, 2015 to start acquiring uranium assets in the Athabasca Basin in northern Saskatchewan, which is the highest grade depository of uranium in the world, really the best mining district, uranium mining district globally, both geologically but also geopolitically. It's one of the best places to work in the world, consistently ranked as a top 5 mining district by the Fraser Institute. So we were aggressive in those years when very few other companies were. It was a very depressed uranium market. We saw post Fukushima, a real ugly set of circumstances for this specific commodity that basically drove the price down to the lowest it had ever traded in inflation adjusted terms back in 2016 and 2017. And that provided the opportunity for us, though, to go out and start acquiring these uranium assets in the Athabasca Basin at very, very attractive prices and valuations. So as you point out, we now have 36 unique properties scattered throughout the Athabasca Basin. It covers over 1.5 million acres of mineral claims, of uranium claims. So that puts us as the third largest by acreage mineral tenure holder in the region, which is quite significant. Now, these projects do range from earlier stage, more grassroots exploration properties, right through to more advanced stage exploration assets. And by advanced stage exploration, I'm referring to projects that either host uranium resources, so you have some pounds in the ground at a few of the properties, and or they have high-grade uranium. And by high-grade, I mean multi-percent 𝐒𝐄𝐒. And just to kind of give the audience that is not familiar with uranium or uranium deposits and grades, the global average of uranium deposit is typically between about 0.1 to upwards of 0.2% 𝐒𝐄𝐒. The Athabasca Basin, it's about 10 to 20 times that. So gives you a sense of how rich, how valuable these deposits are. In fact, 1% 𝐒𝐄𝐒 or uranium is equivalent to just under about an ounce per ton of gold in terms of value per ton, depending on what prices you're using. But again, it just shows you how valuable these types of deposits are. So again, in the Athabasca Basin, our advanced stage exploration projects, we deem them to be that by virtue of having either high-grade multi-percent 𝐒𝐄𝐒 in previous drilling, or again, they could have small deposits, uranium deposits on them. So you're getting exposure through ownership in Skyharbour to your earlier stage properties, right through to projects and assets that host uranium resources and multi-percent high grade.
How would the Russell Lake or the Moore projects fit into that?
So those are the two co-flagship projects in the company that we're actively advancing, and that'll really be the focal point for us and our shareholders this year is the drilling, 16 to 18,000 meters of drilling combined across those two projects, fully funded this year, which will take us right through the year into 2026. But to just kind of go through those two assets. So Russell is a relatively new project that we optioned from Rio Tinto a few years ago. We've now completed the majority earn-in and have gained the operatorship at the project from Rio. So they're a minority partner at the project. Great partner to have, needless to say, is one of the world's largest diversified mining companies. But it's also nice now that we own the project, a majority stake in it. And this project does not currently have a deposit on it, but so it's still in the exploration stage. But last year, we were successful, just 2 years into drilling this, in discovering multi-percent high grade, up to 3% 𝐒𝐿 over a half a meter. And that was within 2.5 meters of just under 0.8% 𝐒𝐿. That was in the first drill hole that we drilled into a new target called the Fork Zone, which is in this broader grayling target area. So we have now discovered multi-percent high grade at the Russell Lake project, and it's going to be, again, a focus for us going forward. We have, of that 16 to 18,000 meters planned this year, about 11,000 meters of that will be drilled at the Russell project. Now, just to take a step back, the Russell Lake project, if you look at it on where it's located on a map, it's a very strategic asset. It's a big property, over 73,000 hectares of prime real estate in the southeastern quadrant of the Athabasca Basin. It's basically a good chunk of the ground located between the McArthur River Mine, which is Cameco's one of Cameco's largest, richest operating mines just to the north of us, and the Key Lake Mill, which is one of only 2 currently operating uranium mills in the region. And the haulage road that runs up from the mine to the mill runs right up through our Russell Lake project. So you've got road access there. There's power lines as well that run alongside the road. And we benefit from an exploration camp that Rio Tinto refurbished there about a decade ago. Fits up to 40 people, state-of-the-art camp, and has become a nice asset in our broader portfolio. So we can stage out of this camp when we're drilling both at our Russell and our adjacent Moore Lake projects. And that helps bring our drill costs down quite a bit. So we're drilling at both of those co-flagship advanced stage exploration assets. We're drilling at less than all-in Canadian $350 a meter, which is about half of that of most other exploration companies exploring or drilling at more remote projects. So for every one hole, another exploration company is getting, we're typically getting 2 holes at the same price. So this is a very cost-efficient project to drill, both Russell and Moore Lake. And it's relatively shallow too. It's important to note that the targets that we're drill testing, there's several targets. I mentioned the Fork target where we successfully intersected high-grade uranium mineralization last year, but there's several other targets as well, numerous regional targets that we're going to be drill testing. And most of these targets range from 350 meters to the unconformity to the target depth to the on the deeper end 450 to 500 meters. And again, for some perspective, there's mines in the Athabasca Basin where they're mining at 556, 650 meters, and discoveries that have been made well below 600, 700, 800 meters depth. So keeping the drilling relatively shallow, again, helps with the cost, allows us to drill more, and that's what we have at both our Russell and Moore Lake. Moore Lake's even more shallow. And one last note on Russell, just to wrap up at that project. If you look again on the map, I mentioned McArthur and Key Lake, but if you look adjacent to Russell to the west, you have Denison's Wheeler River project. And this is significant because Denison has been one of our largest shareholders, our largest corporate shareholder for 8 years now. Their president and CEO, 𝐒𝐿𝐊𝐘𝐇𝐀𝐂𝐄𝐒, has been a director of Skyharbour since 2016. And they're building a mine at the Phoenix deposit, which is just a few kilometers away from our property boundary at Russell. And you'll see most of the drill targets and zones, higher priority target zones at Russell are very close or near to the property boundary where with Wheeler River. And in fact, a lot of the targets that we're drill testing are simply the continuation of these high-grade uraniferous conductors from Wheeler River onto the Russell Lake project. So there's a lot of synergies there. It's great to have Denison as a strategic partner, and it's getting quite interesting for us now at Russell, given that relationship, but also given what we're finding here with the drilling.
Question about the drilling. What is the season like? Like when can you drill? When can you have the drills on the property, etc.?
Typically in the Athabasca, you're looking at a winter season from January through early April. There's the shoulder season, the breakup, and then you'll have a summer season, which can start in, May, June and run right through into early mid-October. And then you have the freeze up. We benefit at Russell in particular with the road access, and most of the higher priority targets are road accessible. So we're actually able to drill year round. In fact, we just completed additional drilling at the end of last year, and we still have some assays pending from that drilling. So we're quite excited to get that out to the market. That's a near-term catalyst. But we're one of only a few exploration companies in the basin that would be able to drill in these shoulder seasons. So it's a great question, and yes, we do benefit having that the road, having the camp, having the power lines there. It brings our drill cost down, but it also allows us to drill year round at Russell.
As far as community goes, you have no problem there with people in the area, or any First Nations or et cetera, because obviously there's infrastructure, road structure, hydro. You're not really reinventing the wheel. You're there, and it's been there a while.
Yeah, no, and look, we last year announced or sorry, 2 years ago announced an exploration agreement with English River First Nations. So we've got very good relationships with the First Nations and the local stakeholders as well. It's a key part of our business, and we'll continue to work on that as we continue to advance the projects in the area. It's obviously a very important part of this business, and becoming more and more important each and every year.
Well, that's really good to hear too, because we pay a lot of attention to, I'll call it ESG, but it's a little broader for us. It's how you deal with the communities and the First Nation groups in the area. So it's good to hear that you have relationships that work really well.
And the environment.
Yeah, the environment factor, et cetera. And obviously, that's part of our goal, is to try to change the narrative out there too, tell people how important these projects actually are.
Look, Saskatchewan is one of the top mining districts globally, as I mentioned, and working and operating in Canada, we have some of the best mining safety and regulations out there of any country, of any jurisdiction in the world. So we've got great relations, like I mentioned, with the First Nations and local communities and local stakeholders, and we're required by law to make sure we're good stewards of these projects and operating safely as well.
Definitely helps too from an investor's, small shareholder's point of view, that we know how important it is that you don't get any hassles from the groups. And if you've taken the time to talk to them, et cetera, that makes a big difference. So you've had a lot of news lately, and I know, as you mentioned, you're entering a fairly significant drilling program for this coming year, right?
So we just announced the plan for the 2025 drilling, which will consist of 16 to 18,000 meters, as I mentioned, across our Russell and Moore Lake projects. 11,000 of that at Russell, about 6 to 7,000 of that at Moore Lake, at the adjacent Moore Lake project. We're fully funded for that, fully permitted. So that'll take us right through this year into 2026. It'll be a multi-phased program, so we will have several phases of drilling. In fact, the first phase at Russell will commence here shortly, and it'll consist of an initial 5,000 meters. Like last year, we'll likely be drilling right through the year into late 2025. But we also have, and unique to Skyharbour, through our prospect generator business, you mentioned 36 projects, and one of the great things about Skyharbour is we've really built up a robust prospect generator business, which includes 9 partner companies, advancing 13 of those 36 projects in our portfolio. And of these 9 partner companies, we're expecting a number of them to be drilling this year, or carrying out meaningful exploration programs and field programs in 2025. And collectively, we're expecting about 15 to 16,000 meters, additional meters of drilling from these various partner companies. In fact, one of our other larger strategic partner companies, which is Orano, France's largest nuclear and nuclear fuel cycle company, which we have a JV partnership with at our Preston project, has just announced plans for a 6,000 to 7,000 meter drill program at that Preston project. So whether it's Orano or some of these other partner companies, we have Terra, North Shore, Mustang, Hatchet, UraX. There's a number of newer partners that we've signed option agreements with. These partner companies we are expecting will be carrying out drill programs or field programs this year to add to that total. So when you add it all up, you're looking at between our drilling at Russell and Moore and the partner funded programs, somewhere between 30 to 35,000 meters of combined diamond drilling across a handful of projects, some of which we own, others are being earned in by partner companies. And so this likely represents one of the largest, if not the largest, combined drill program of any exploration company in the Athabasca Basin this year. And we also have the benefit of having partner companies fund a good chunk at those of the budgets at those partner funded projects.
So basically, though, the prospect generator model, it's so funny you just brought it up. We were just going to ask you to explain a little bit what that actually means, because it's pretty exciting, very interesting, and it just led to all those deals you just mentioned. But maybe just explain to us what this model looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, there are companies. I'm sure you've seen a number of them in the space that are prospect generator businesses, and that's almost entirely what they do. We have a hybrid model. Our not to dilute or diminish our main focus at Russell and Moore, because first and foremost we are an exploration and discovery company. The value creation that we offer investors and that benefit us and our investors comes from the drill bit, comes from successful exploration, and we're focused on that at our Russell and Moore Lake projects this year and in years to come. But we have a secondary part to the business, which really has grown in the last handful of years, simply by the fact that we've got so much land, and we've in recent years, with the uranium market picking up, we've been able to option or JV out some of these secondary and tertiary projects. So I mentioned 9 partner companies that we either have joint ventures or option agreements with. In total, those 9 partner companies could be spending upwards of over $70 million in combined project consideration. About half of that would come in exploration expenditures and funding. The other half would come in cash and share payments from these partner companies. So it is at their election whether they complete the earn-ins, but assuming they do, that would see over $70 million in combined project consideration accrue to Skyharbour and our shareholders. And so what that means is a lot more news flow. If any one of these companies is successful with the exploration at their respective projects, that will benefit us and our shareholders. And even though we'll only end up with a minority interest in the project, typically we structure the earn-ins whereby the company can earn a majority interest in operatorship in the project, and we retain a minority interest in NSR and usually a large equity stake in the company. So one of the companies makes a major discovery, we benefit as a minority interest holder in the project. We'll have typically a large equity position in the company and likely an NSR at the project as well. So it's a very low risk way for us to effectively have multiple irons in the fire and to stay focused at our 2 main projects while not having the risk of these other properties lapsing, because you do have to spend money to keep the claims in good standing. And if you are not carrying out exploration, eventually the claims do lapse. So this also benefits us in that it helps us maintain such a large property holding throughout the Athabasca Basin. But yes, it's been a boon to our business. A lot of shareholders really like the idea of having multiple shots on goal. It's not just, what we're doing at our two main projects. You have this optionality value that these other partner companies provide. But we also benefit by keeping the equity dilution down a little bit, in that we have cash and share payments coming in from these partner companies annually. And that's provided us with pretty much all the money we've needed for G&A, for staking, for additional staking. And from time to time, we can raise flow-through dollars at a premium to pay for our drilling. We've carried out one hard dollar equity financing in the last basically 4 years, which is one that we just closed in December. We ended up raising about $10 million. It was primarily placed with a corporate and several existing institutional shareholders, so it was very well placed. But we raised $2.5 million hard and $7.5 million in flow through. Again, that's funding all of the exploration and drilling, our largest exploration and drill program we've ever carried out as a company, that'll be going on this year. So again, getting back to the prospect generator business, it's been a great secondary part to our business. And we have another 20 or so projects in our project portfolio that we own 100% of, that we're actively seeking partners on, so we can continue to monetize some of these secondary assets.
Really interesting model. Nick had explained some of that to me earlier, and it's phenomenally good to have a diversification like that. And again, I liken it a little bit to a royalty element, but not really. I realize it's JV and things like that, but it's a great blend to what you're really working on, and that's the other two big projects to go with it. And so we will say that we're excited to see what happens this year for your company, etc. And so what's the biggest thing you think could happen on the positive for Skyharbour's future, say next year and into 26?
Yeah, so I mean, look, it's a very catalyst-rich company. I talked about our Russell Lake project and the drilling we've carried out there over the last few years, our partnership now with Rio Tinto, and the strategic location and importance of the project. But adjacent to Russell is our other co-flagship Moore Lake project, which we've actually had in the portfolio for over 8 years now. We own 100% of it. It's been the flagship. Prior to Russell, it was the only flagship project in the company, really, where we were focused and spending most of our time and money. And this project is an even more advanced stage exploration asset, in that it does have a small high-grade deposit called the Maverick. It consists of several high-grade pods or lenses of uranium mineralization, relatively shallow, within 280 meters of surface. And we've had very high-grade drill results historically at the project, including up to 21% 𝐒_308 over 1.5 meters. That was within 6% over 6 meters. Just last year, we announced one of the better holes as well, 7.3% 𝐒_308 over 3 meters at the Maverick zone. So this project continues to deliver high-grade results. And this year, we have another 5,000 to 7,000 meters planned at the project, which will likely be carried out in several phases. And we are planning on issuing a technical report, resource estimate at the project later this year. We're evaluating the potential as well internally for one of two surface mining methods that are being or soon to be used in the Athabasca Basin. Both of those two are ISR in situ recovery, which is well known, and that's what Denison's proposing to use to mine the Phoenix deposit, which is nearby. And the other one is called Sabre, which is a part of the McLean Lake joint venture between Orano and Denison, and they're using that to mine deposits up near the McLean Lake mill, and they're planning to mine between 700,000 to 800,000 pounds of uranium this year. So two surface mining methods that could bring the cost down and also help with the permitting and development timelines. So we're working on all of that this year. We've still got some assays pending. We're again very pleased with what we've continued to see at this project as it continues to yield high-grade results, drill results, and we're looking forward to continuing to expand on that this year. So those two projects, you're going to have lots of news, lots of drilling results from both of those projects this year. If you look at previous discovery stories in the Athabasca Basin that have generated billions of dollars in return for investors, you look at NextGen, you look at Fission, ISO, more recently F3, 𝐂𝐄𝐒𝐂𝐄𝐒. These are all companies in the last 10, 15 years that have made notable high-grade discoveries. I'd like to think that Skyharbour is next in line. We do offer that potentially imminent discovery, high-grade discovery potential. We are delivering. We have seen high-grade multi-percent at both of our flagship Russell and Moore Lake projects, and we're looking to build on that this year to move the market. And we have the added benefit of this very robust prospect generator business that has grown to 9 partner companies across 13 of our non-core or secondary and tertiary projects. So you're going to have the added news flow from those partners against some cash and shares coming in. And we'll continue to look to build this part of the business as we have inventory, 100% owned projects that we can look to option and JV out. And last but not least, if you look at the team that we've assembled, we've continued to build out the team. It's a good mix of management and board of directors that can raise capital, that have built and sold mining companies. So I was at a gold company previously, which was sold to New Gold. It was a small gold junior, and we had exploration success, my chairman Jim Pettit and I, and we ultimately were acquired by New Gold. That's when we started Skyharbour. We have others on our board and advisory board that have built and sold mining companies. Paul Matizik is a strategic advisor. He's built and sold 6 mining companies in the last 20 years. Joe Gallucci, who's the head of investment banking at Laurentian Bank, brings a lot of capital markets experience. Dave Cates is a director, who's the president and CEO of Denison Mines. And then our geological team, we've continued to add to it in recent months, including our VP of Exploration, a gentleman by the name of Sardar Donmez, who joined us full-time, very much liked what he was seeing with the drilling that we were carrying out at our Russell and Moore Lake projects. And his background, he was at Denison for almost 20 years. He was there from the discovery of Phoenix and Griffin 20 years ago, right through to the feasibility study 2 years ago. So he knows that project, Wheeler River, and the surrounding area, inclusive of our 2 co-flagship Russell and Moore Lake projects, very, very well. And so he was a big addition coming in full-time as our VP of Exploration, complementing our team in Saskatoon. Dave Billard, who's our head consulting geologist, been with us from day one. 𝐒𝐄𝐒𝐂𝐄𝐒, he built and sold a company called JNR. So a geological and technical team that has focused uranium exploration expertise in the Athabasca Basin.
Incredible, the team you put together, and I'm glad you explained that to us. It makes for an incredible year you guys are faced with. It's going to be extremely exciting to follow the news and all the things that come out. So we definitely like to thank you for giving us this information on our people to be able to view it. Really, really helpful.
My pleasure.
Calling all savvy investors in mining and resources. Seeking the inside track on Skyharbour Resources? Look no further than minestockers.com for cutting-edge knowledge and real-time stock updates. Visit for the insights and stay for the gains. Seize the opportunity and explore the magic at minestockers.com.